Pappy was waiting quietly as we walked out of the crystal chamber. I think he was curious as to what had transgressed behind the massive stone door, but upon seeing our faces, decided that silence was the better course. We all said nothing as we were carried by the old hover truck back to the Derbyshire. Even Eric was as quiet as a statue. The only one of us that wasn't stone-faced was Toasty. He wasn't necessarily happy, but I'm not sure he was really that worried either. After all, the Hofodoma system had not yet been fully annexed, and Vector Prime being wiped out would make the TSA's lives a hell of a lot easier. Tanamaku was not yet a danger to his territory, but I think in the back of his mind he must have known the dangers of having the devil itself on your back doorstep. If only he knew just how far in it they really were. About halfway through the journey back, Dr. Schoffield struck up a conversation with Pappy and managed to convince him to have a thorough physical. I think it might have been his own curiosity about how he was still alive almost 8.5 centuries after the fits wound up here that factored into his decision to go through with it. Oh, I almost forgot. As we came over the rise, the four stone giants still stood in a semicircle facing the ship. What was really amazing, though, was the fact that 2 Mark IX Hawks were parked neatly side by side next to the Derbyshire. Angus had already had work parties scavenging what parts they could from one of the former warships. But despite that sight, I was still haunted by the last words of Tanamaku, the one she spoke to us as we were dismissed.
Take your time making your decision, Dr. Phillip, but don't take too long. Repair your ship. If you do not help me, you can hold my continents. Except for free. I'll keep you around, so you can watch everyone else around you die.
Damn it, I feel like I've been on this exam table forever. What are you all wound up about, Sawbones?
I think I've already found it. When did the aging start?
I'm not sure. Sometimes I lose track of time.
When was the last time you ate, drank, slept?
Now, looky here, leech slinger. Once you stop looking at the clock, time just kinda goes by.
According to records, you were 37 years old when you took command of the Fits. That was almost 8.5 centuries ago. Didn't you ever wonder?
I hope you're not actually still thinking that you can bargain with Tanamaku.
Why the devil not? You're the one she seems to have it in for. Look, it's not like she's asking you to lay waste to an animal shelter of kittens and fluffy bunnies. She just wants you to find a sister.
Even if I wanted to, it's not that simple. She'll still kill everyone and everything around her, even if I cooperated.
You have to give her what she wants. Be reasonable.
Reasonable?
We have to tell them, boss. They don't understand.
Understand what?
What are you two ingrates hiding?
Am I interrupting something?
What is it, Bosun?
Sparks is routing long-range comms through one of the Hawks. Cyborg Steve has towed the Landmaster back and should be here within the hour.
That was a great idea you had, you and Superfly flying 2 of those Hawks back to the Derbyshire.
You saved us a lot of time that way. Well done, Bosun.
We lost 3 men, though.
Frost, Crow, and Vasquez. Yeah, I know.
And what news of my man, Marenghi?
Eric is doing a search. Safe on no sign.
Tobias is missing as well. Why do I sense he had a hand in Marenghi's disappearance?
So you're doing a bang-up job on this, Freedom. 3 men dead, my man missing.
Shut it, Toasty. We'll find your man. Likely he's with Tobias. Form a burial detail, Bosun. When the bodies arrive, we'll have a short service.
There was the other thing I wanted to mention. Steve said that the bodies of the dead Benians all turned to sand right before his optics.
Yep. Probably just like all the others.
What others?
Everybody.
What the bloody hell is going on? You know something and none of you are telling.
Oh, do keep up. Look around you, Toasty. We're sitting in what is likely the largest ever collection of shipwrecks in the known universe. The largest spaceship's graveyard ever assembled in history. What is missing?
The crew? bodies. And given the fact that Ralph's young Trim Sinclair has lived well beyond his years, there should be a great many more people here.
No flies on the mammoth's boy, it seems.
You got a flight of Mark 9 Hawks sitting 10 clicks away that have been here around 30 years? Where are the crews?
The only living beings we've encountered on this rock are a marauding pack of Genbenians and you, Pappy. I think it's time we got some more answers.
Well, the Genbenians got the Hawk crews, overran them and had them for lunch before I could get to them. The rest, well, I organized a rebellion a few centuries ago. It was all over in a blink. I was the only one left alive. That's how I know Tanamaku is a woman, Dr. Schoffield. She is as vengeful as one. She made me watch as she drained them all. She drank them dry until all that was left was sand.
So you're telling me that the sand we've been walking around and breathing in
is all that remains of the once great population of Tanamaku. Their very life essence drained right into the core of this world.
This world is a bloody vampire, only it doesn't feed on blood. It feeds on the very life force of its victims.
It eats souls, Toasty. It feeds on death itself.
Oh my goodness.
Balderdash, a planet with a giant ruffled shirt and Eurotrash accent? Superstitious nonsense.
It's a death junkie. Toasty, take my words on that.
Bosun, pass the word. Burial detail when Steve arrives with the bodies of our fallen comrades. 30 minutes after that, I want all hands assembled in the main galley.
Aye, boss. What for, if I may ask?
Because Doc Schoffield and I have a tale to tell, and it must be done urgently. And if you still don't believe us when it's done, Toasty, be it on your own head.
Then why 30 minutes if it's so urgent?
Because I want the crew to have some time to pay their proper respects. And the doctor and I are going to need some really stiff drinks to get through our trip down memory lane.
It'll be more like Nightmare Alley.
The funeral was brief and somber. 3 hills now stood in the sand where 3 of my crew now lay in eternal sleep. Frost had been with me for over 16 years, just a year longer than Eric. Crow had been on the shortest, just 5 years. He had a wife and son back on Tanis Major 4. Vasquez had grown up on a colony near Ceti Alpha. She'd been on board for almost 9 years, and was one of only a handful of women to have served under my command. I gave a short speech and then headed back towards the ship. It's not easy giving a eulogy for men and women who have died under your command, but it's nowhere near as hard as writing the letters to their families explaining how and why this tragedy had occurred, especially when you can't tell them the truth. They would be well looked after, since I always kept money aside in various accounts and portfolios for each crew member. But moneys can't replace a father, mother, brother, sister, husband, wife, or child that will never be coming home. Damn, that is good whiskey.
Is this Angus's brew?
Yep, fresh from the still.
Ah, so this is what you get up to in your spare time.
Only on days like this.
Sorry, boss. I couldn't stop him.
No titles in here, Bill. At least not right now. Call me John. Have a seat, Bill. You too, Toasty. To coming full circle.
What are you all blathering about? And what on earth is this gut rot?
Liquid courage.
The Khan Angus brews in the engine room.
Relax. You'll know it all in a little while now, Toasty.
And what makes you think I won't sell you out to Tanamaku first chance I get?
If you still want to after the meeting, I'll be shocked. Hey, Bill. How long have you been with us now?
Almost 9 years, give or take.
I remember my 9th year as a merchantman very vividly. I started out like you did after I left the service. I was hired on to the Roger Ainley, a freighter out of Tau City. I served under Captain Blutarski.
Blowhard Blutarsky. Sponge not fat pants himself. No wonder you turned out the way you did.
Soon you'll be looking to put in for your master's license, won't you, Bill?
I thought about it.
Well, don't think about it too long. Time is a funny thing. It passes very quickly for most of us.
Very true.
One thing I've learned, though, is to make the most of it. And remember, you're given an allotted number of days. Use them wisely. And know in the end, it was enough. Immortality is a curse, not a blessing.
You told me that same thing when you found me in the Outer Rim. Sounds wise.
I heard it from a very wise man.
Well, certainly not a Blutarsky.
No, but he had a hand in it. It was my 9th year. We visited a small abandoned colony called Owatonna 915. Supply run he normally made once a year. I was his bosun, about the same age Bill is here now. There was a single residence on that abandoned colony. A huge mansion with its own hangar facilities and decked out with everything you can imagine the most wealthy people in the Empire have. And it only had one occupant.
Ottawana was designed as a plague zone, wasn't it? An outbreak in Corbian flu wiped it out, if memory serves.
And who was this wealthy hermit?
Yep, you're right, Rory. But the plague was long gone, and the colony forgotten, which was how he liked it. The wealthy hermit was a tall, lean, bellicose fella. He went by the name Jaron Black. Good-looking chap, but the irises of his eyes were silver. He looked like he was no more than 30 years old at the most. We were in his office, finishing out some paperwork, when Blutarsky suddenly excused himself, claiming he had forgotten some stuff back on the ship.
That must have been awkward.
Yeah, it was. Because when he finally spoke to me, he looked at me and he asked me my age, and I gave it. And I tried to put on a fake smile to ease the tension, and then he said, "You are young. It seems like you will live forever. But living forever is not all it's cracked up to be."
Some fool with a ponytail and wispy beard. Metaphysical New Age mambo jumbo.
He then looked me dead in the eyes, and he said, "I am 29 years old."
So a young crackpot probably burned out on sea.
Trust me, Toasty, I didn't think he was playing with a full deck either. But it's what he said next that made me shiver. He reached it over and he touched a button on his desk, and this huge viewport slid open onto the hangar bay. And there on the side wall, almost to scale, was this beautiful mural painting of a warship sailing on the open sea. And it was a warship of the old mid-20th century. On its decks, lining the railing, looking right at us, was the crew, painted in every detail, right down to each individual face. And he looked at each of those faces, looked back at me, and then he said, "You don't understand. I have been 29 years old every day since the day I sailed on that ship one cold autumn afternoon around a harbor in Philadelphia in 1943.
The Philadelphia experiment?
Sounds like he was yanking your chain, Sonny.
He wasn't, was he?
One look into those eyes told me he wasn't. The eyes of a man who has lived far too long. Very ancient eyes, trapped in a young man's visage. And over the next hour or so, he taught me more about living than I would ever learn in all the years since. As I heard the outer office door chime, he clasped me on my shoulder, and he said these final words to me before the captain entered. I remember this bit very clearly because there were tears welling up in those huge silver eyes. He said, "Those who seek immortality are fools, and those of us who have it thrust upon them are damned. Immortality is a curse, not a blessing. Use your years wisely, and always know that while they are numbered, it is enough."
So what happened next?
Captain Toasty rounded me up and we left. He put his arm on my shoulder as we boarded the ship, and he whispered to me, "Do you understand why I brought you here?" And I simply nodded yes. He smiled and he answered, "It is enough." And we left the planet shortly after.
Did you ever return?
Nope. But in my heart, I know he's still up there alone on Owatonna 915, a prisoner of eternity. Sometimes I still picture him sitting there at his desk, a man the Reaper will always visit, but can never take home with him. Muster in 5. Let's go.
Well, how many times have you heard that fell-garb story?
Not once, actually. I've known the man roughly 28 years now, and he has never told me that story until today.
I can't believe this stuff, man. You're sitting there talking bloody crazy moons.
I almost got eaten by bears.
Well, it's all true. The boss is rattled.
So does my house really look that big?
As big as a rhinoceros'.
She's far more cold-blooded than even I knew. She.
I wonder, who's been taking beer at my bloody still?
Well, I hope you all enjoyed the recordings Eric uploaded of our meeting with Tanamaku, but the situation is far more grim than any of you can possibly imagine.
I gave you all an injection as you entered this room. It was a caravan derivative to inhibit your brain's production of certain neurotransmitters.
Tanamaku has attempted to probe some of us telepathically. We're not sure just how strong her mental abilities are, so that's why the doctor and I will continue to withhold certain facts. It started a very long time ago. When I was 15, I was one of the only 2 survivors of the Battle of Tam. I was awarded the Imperial Medal of Honor by the Prime Emperor himself, and as a reward, I was offered a chance to get out of the infantry. I chose to go to Flight Warrant Officer School.
Is this going to be another of your riveting history lessons?
Can it, Toasty, or I'll stun bolt you.
Ooh, it's that serious.
It's deadly serious.
Thank you, Doctor. Around the time I turned 20, I was summoned into a private audience with the Emperor himself at his private residence on Mars. He'd been receiving data packets and messages from a black operation called Project Lazarus. No project under that name could be found anywhere on any legit books, so he was quite alarmed. After I viewed the data myself, I could understand why. He could not move on it until he had confirmation, so he pulled some major strings to get me assigned to that project as a flight officer.
I was the one who sent the messages. I met John for the first time at a secret research facility codenamed Hoagland Base.
Sorry to interrupt, But Dr. Schoffield would have been quite young to be on the classified base, wouldn't he?
I'll take this one, Doc. I know how humble you are. Rory here was in every sense of the word a prodigy. By age 6, he completed primary school. He had a diploma by age 8. By age 14, he was an MD with master's degree specializing in genetics, cybernetics, biochemistry, and xenobiology. He'd been personally recruited into the project by his mentor, Dr. Ewan Shandor.
Shandor was the founder and chief administrator of Project Lattices. Hoagland Base had been erected near extraterrestrial ruins.
Ruins consisting of a mile-high tower, a crystalline cave, identical to the ones we just showed you on the recording. The only difference was the crystals there were all blackened, burnt out, dead for lack of a better word.
Forgive me for interrupting, but wasn't Hoagland Base located on Kingu?
The crystals were named Zulonite after a legendary Sumerian figure. Until today, Zulonite has only been found in one known place in the universe.
So yes, given the evidence, it could only have been the remains of Kingu's central dogma. The rub of it is, though, that the planet Kingu came to rest around is now billions of years later heavily populated, and the presence of a second moon would be an ecological disaster that planet cannot possibly survive.
So you both know where Diana's sister is, but cannot tell her because it would kill millions of people.
Billion sparks. So we're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't.
Well, back to the story. What happened to Shandor?
He had been able to reactivate the crystals on a molecular level using theta wave radiation. He had somehow been affected by the crystals. They had incredible effects on human anatomy. Increased healing, enhanced physical strength, and even... Shandor had been at least 85 when I was recruited.
When I met him at Hoagland Base, he looked no more than 40. He had found what he thought to be the fountain of youth, immortality in a bottle. But like all magic, it came with a price.
Zulonite is capable of miraculous things. It can restore organic structures, generate power on levels that make our modern power cores look like old steam engines by comparison. But it's fueled by...
It's okay, Doc. Life force. It sucks the very life out of everything around it. From what you saw and from our readings, the entire power source of this planet is life itself. It feeds on the death of others, like a vampire, like a junkie. Junkie is more accurate because as the crystals get on, they need more and more life force to generate more and more power. Tana is nearing the point where, like a Zing addict, she is gonna burn out completely.
Shandor had been importing animals for experiments. Then it was livestock. Then people began coming up missing.
The main lab of Hoagland Base had become the technological equivalent of a slaughterhouse. I reported my findings to the Emperor via a private channel, and he sent in the Imperial Marines to blank page the place. It took 23 fully armed and armored Marines to take down Shandor. They evac'd all the survivors and glassed the whole place into oblivion.
But what about me? I never kill anybody. And I'm still alive.
Activate holoscreen. This is Poppy's bloodstream. Increase magnification. The crystals have literally overrun your entire system. This is why you don't need to eat, sleep, or even drink.
Your body is receiving leftover energy from every world that Tanamaku destroys, Pappy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but this is why the aging finally started. You're linked and locked to this moon, and you are dying with it. I truly am sorry, but everyone she kept here on this world were not only for her amusement, but to store the excess energy from her kills. You are all not only just pets, but batteries.
By the great Norris.
No, that's not true. That's impossible. Pity's sake, quit poking me with that plunger.
Move forward. Captain Toasty, we did it.
Marenghi, did what?
Signaled the fleet. I sent a code Alpha 1.
You what? You fool. You utter damn fool! Toasty, how long before that fleet can get here?
But if they follow protocol and assemble the full task force, likely within 12 hours.
She'll wipe them out, John.
And then she'll do goddess knows what in retaliation.